Is it common to have like a girlfriend in India?
Well, I would say uh, 10 years back, almost a decade back, I would take my own example. When I had my first girlfriend and my mother got to know about it,
Hmm.
she was pretty much serious in the sense um, that the kid has a girlfriend and he would lose all his uh,
Focus on studies.
focus from studies and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But now the society has changed a lot in India in like 10 years.
Hmm.
The society has been more progressive now. So what it does is it actually made everyone cool about. Basically, it's not a taboo of having a girlfriend in India now. It's just another thing.
But how did it happen in 10 years? Like what changed to make the people suddenly see it from a taboo to just a normal thing?
I would say that the advancement of social networking in India, I would say maybe Facebook or WhatsApp group,
Uh-huh.
has made people more exposed to this concept of like people can have girlfriends. It's okay.
Huh.
So people are more exposed to this sort of thing, that that this guy has a girlfriend. It shouldn't be anything else.
Hmm.
It's okay.
But what was the basis for it? So, for example, in my country, the basis for so you should not have a girlfriend because it's religiously forbidden. Why was it a taboo in India? What was the reason?
I wouldn't say it was religious in India. It was more like a socio-cultural thing,
Hmm.
that having a girlfriend or having any relation or attachment with another woman before marriage is supposedly not acceptable in the society.
Hmm.
But under religious terms, there's no such thing. There's nowhere it's written that you cannot have a relationship with a woman without marriage.
Okay.
So it was more like a
Uh,
society thing
uh,
than religious.
I think we should have crossed
We should
back there, or is this a? Okay.
cross from here.
Huh. So when it started, when people started seeing that on social media, it's okay. They changed their minds,
I
basically.
think so.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think that's possible in my country because the basis of it is religious. So when someone says it's bad or that person's bad for having a girlfriend, they say they give you a religious reason.
But then will this ever change, or
I think
uh,
it's starting to change. Um, so one way it's starting to change is that, or at least that's what I believe myself, is that a girlfriend. So if you take the religious definition of what a marriage is and strip it down to the basics, like the minimum, like the necessary basics, it is just marriage. So having a girlfriend, and so there are two conditions for being married in my religion, and the first one is that everyone must know, right? You cannot hide it. Everyone must know that you are with this girl,
okay? So
and
that's why you get, like, people in your country get married.
what do you mean?
Like the basis of what you were saying. Like everyone should know that this girl has been related to this guy. Why
Uh,
is that? Why do people? I mean, of course, for a lot of reasons, people should know. But what's the reason
yeah, so
behind?
this is the religious condition. I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know the reason behind this requirement, but I just know that it is a requirement.
Okay.
And another requirement is, um, mm, mm, mm. what is the other requirement? Not sure, but yeah, I think that's it. Oh yeah, the other requirement is to have some kind of contract saying that in case you separate, this and this happens, or when you are married, this and this happens, and it has to be signed by the girl and the boy and her father. So these are the two requirements, and this contract does not have to be written. Some people say you can just agree on it verbally.
Okay.
So with these requirements, you can actually, these are satisfied if you look at a typical boyfriend-girlfriend relationship here. So yes, everybody knows these are a couple. That's requirement number one. And yes, they have agreed that if something happens, this and this will happen. So I think the shift now is happening in this form, that a boyfriend-girlfriend thing is practically marriage if these requirements are satisfied. So it's religiously okay. This is not a widespread view, but I think it's becoming more and more widespread.
Okay, so basically, a couple to be called as married couple, you don't need to have that social obligation of celebrating it
No,
and
it's
calling everyone that guys we are married now, but it's more or like satisfying these two conditions. First, which is everyone should know, and second, that you sign this contract, like
yeah,
a mutual agreement that if we ever split, this is gonna be the
yeah,
outcomes of it.
yeah.
Then why do people get married? The next question.
The reason anyone gets married. Yeah. So yeah, this is marriage, to be with a woman, right? Or to be with someone or a man you want to marry.
Okay, interesting.
Why is it interesting?
Because the similar thing has started happening in India as well. Like now legally in India, the live-in relationships were not legal before, but now I think in past few years the High Court, or it's legal now. You can now have a live-in relationship. It's not just a taboo or illegal.
You say a living relationship?
Live-in relationship.
Living?
Yeah, where the girlfriend and boyfriend can stay together without getting married.
Ah, okay.
Live-in. And also there was another taboo, like if I'm not very sure about this legality of it, but I think it's legal that if under certain circumstances where the girlfriend and the boyfriend who are not married have a child,
Okay.
the child will still be considered legal.
Okay.
So that's the kind of things which are happening in India.
You were saying something about what your mother thinks, and then she changed her mind.
When I had my first girlfriend and she came to know about it, she was quite furious about it because
Furious.
furious, yes.
Wow.
Emotionally, of course.
Uh-huh.
uh, she was like, um, because of course I was studying and I was in high school and I was supposed to focus on my studies, and but now after like I think 8 or 10 years, now the things have changed. Now she asks me, if you have a girlfriend,
Okay.
do tell us.
Huh.
And she wants to, if I have a girlfriend, let's say I have an imaginary girlfriend, she wants to talk to her, she wants to discuss things with her. Because one probable reason is because all of her friends in the group, like my mother's friends, they started discussing about their children's girlfriend or boyfriend, and they also meet and greet with them. So maybe that's kind of a peer pressure from other friends,
Okay.
that my child doesn't have a girlfriend, I must talk to him, I
Huh.
must know about her, and things like that. That's what I think. So that's what I've changed, and that's only because people have started expressing everything on social media. So you don't want to be left behind in any aspect.
Okay.
So that's why I think this leads to a change on a much larger scale, where we were having a conversation that why a decade back having a girlfriend was, I wouldn't say a taboo, but was not really taken in a good way. But now it's like, okay, he
Huh.
has a girlfriend. That's it.
That's the case in everywhere in India now.
Yeah,
Ah.
I think so.
Even in rural areas, like not the city, just outside the city.
I would say wherever they have an influence of technology or social media.
Hmm.
because because I know few parts of India as well who has a very basic fundamental issues like child marriages,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think so those cities or villages, not cities but villages or towns, are still very equipped with the exposure of the what's happening in the world or even in India.
Hmm.
So it's not everywhere, but yeah, majorly in the metropole or the big cities, which which is basically India is known for. Like you don't know every part of India. We
Hmm.
know only the big capitals or big cities. At least this is what is happening over there. But overall, I don't think so.
Okay. Can a girl, 16-year-old or 17-year-old,
Hmm.
just say to her mother, I'm going on a date tonight?
I think so. They
Ah.
can, but it's not very common. Still not very common in my larger part of India.
Hmm.
It's still okay, or it's still ongoing in only the big metropolitan cities,
Hmm.
where, because you would agree with this as well, that cities are always ahead from
The villages
the
of more the
the
rural
village or
areas, yeah.
overall country pace.
Hmm.
So that way, in big towns, yes, they are allowed to, or they go for dating.
Okay.
Because I remember that when I was in high school, we were not allowed to carry cell phones. Even our parents thought of that why would we need a mobile phone?
Hmm.
Like even we also didn't felt any need of of a mobile phone, because we knew that this is the slot for playing and this is the slot for studying. When are we going and when are we coming back? We knew everything.
Hmm.
But now, like every student or every child, maybe after as soon as they get into high school, they definitely have a mobile phone,
Hmm.
and it increases everything. It brings the entire world closer to you. It has made reaching out to any person simpler.
Okay.
So I think that makes a huge difference between this decade. Like everything is much more accessible.
Hmm.
If we see 10 years back, the internet was not that approachable, in the sense it was a rich man's leisure.
Hmm.
But now you get internet for free. Like it's like one of the necessity beyond food, shelter, and clothes.
Hmm.
It has become one of the necessity.
Yeah.
So this has a great influence or impact on the discussion we
No,
are
wait,
having.
let's get back to the dating thing. So
Okay.
imagine now that, say, 10 or 20 years from now, you're a father,
Hmm.
you have a daughter,
Hmm.
and she says, "Oh, how do you like coach her? How do you teach her before she gets to that age where she starts to date? Do
Yeah.
you know how you would, like for example, teach her how to date safely?
How to date safely?
Yeah, no, I mean not like how to avoid being attacked or anything, but how
Yeah,
to
yeah.
date in a way that,
Like
um,
how to be away from. I mean, how to judge a guy basically.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's for this thing. I was also thinking one day that maybe uh, as a parent, I would have to initiate myself to talk to my children,
Hmm.
that apart from everything, this is the kind of thing which is also there in a social life, because when you have friends and everything, friction happens and attraction happens.
Hmm.
So it's okay to consider that, it's okay to acknowledge that,
Okay.
and more of it, I would like to um, uh, like I would in this, my methodology would be just like my parents, because we talk about these things a lot at home,
Hmm.
and we openly talk about it,
Like you and your parents.
yeah,
Okay.
because the only difference is that they have made me comfortable in a way that um, like apart from being parents,
Mhm.
they are my friends as well.
Okay.
They would know, they would understand me. So at certain points, they are at certain parts, they are really my parents. They behave as parents,
Mhm.
like saying no to things and
Okay.
uh, how in every generic way a parent behave.
Huh.
But at certain parts or at certain discussions, they behave like friends as well.
Mhm.
So I think that would be the same methodology I would adopt uh, for my children.
Sure, but still, how would you teach her to date properly?
Well,
Like
I'm not
how?
sure. I don't have any experience of dating,
Okay. Okay.
but maybe my wife would. So
Oh.
let's see.
Okay.
I'm hopeful.
All right. Hmm. Yeah, because I think so. If you go to the society in Egypt and you
Mhm.
propose to them that dating is okay,
Mhm.
they will not go so far as to think how or they wouldn't allow them to, or they would not allow themselves to even imagine it.
Mhm.
Because as soon as they get to the point where they start thinking, um, hmm, like, how do I approach this with my child?
Mhm.
How do I teach her or him, especially so a daughter?
Mhm.
It's all about the daughter there.
Mhm.
So how do I teach her
Mhm.
to be okay? Or they can't even imagine that it's okay.
Mhm.
They don't have the language, so that's why this is like a big first hurdle.
Mhm.
They cannot guess, or we as a people cannot get past it. We don't know. It's like no one in the population there
Mhm.
has the knowledge of how to date properly.
Yes.
Like the past generations,
Yeah.
they just, if a guy wants to marry,
Mhm.
he just goes to a house
Mhm.
or someone his mother knows or something
Mhm.
and says, he doesn't even know the girl.
Mhm.
She looks pretty. I want to marry your daughter.
Mhm.
And they agree, okay, you're gonna give her dowry.
Mhm.
You're gonna buy her that sum of gold,
Okay.
and then you're married.
The male gives
Yeah, yeah,
dowry.
yeah. It's different
Whoa,
from it.
it's
It's very different.
exactly
Yeah. I mean,
opposite.
when I found out about in India, that the girl gives dowry, I was shocked, man. It was weird. Why?
Okay.
So yeah, and this is the traditional approach.
Mhm.
After that, we don't know what to do. So this approach has clearly failed. It's a bad approach.
And why
And
is that?
but
Why it's a bad approach?
it's a bad approach because you don't know the girl. You're marrying someone just
Who you
because.
don't know?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course. I
So
agree.
yeah. So this approach is a bad approach, but then we don't have an alternative,
Mhm.
and in some sense we don't allow ourselves to think of an alternative because it's a very sensitive topic for no reason. Like as soon as we start thinking about dating,
Mm.
they just get like it's weird for them.
Mhm.
I cannot imagine my daughter dating someone and me being okay with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we are at that stage right now.
Okay. So you think this will ever change, considering that
Yeah, so
because earlier we were discussing that it's majorly because of the religion that people are not allowed to date.
mhm.
But how would this will? I mean, how would you as a parent will cope up with such thing?
Yeah,
Okay, so
so
would you allow your child to date?
yes.
And because there's another thing of being a parent that you have to cope up with the society as well.
Yes.
So how would you plan on that? You,
So I have a
I think
feeling that already before I get to that point, before I start being a parent,
it will change.
yeah, a little bit, at least a little bit.
Okay.
But um, if it doesn't, then I will still do the right thing because already now in Egypt, this the whole so the society is like very clustered.
Mhm.
So people are already having to do the right thing, regardless of what the others think. Yeah.
Okay. Best of luck on that.
yeah. But still, so when I think about the coaching that I would give my daughter on how to date, I still don't know. So it's yeah, it's still an area that I'm trying to think how. We don't have that knowledge, but it won't be hard to get. You can just read books, right? As soon as we feel secure enough to, start imagining that, we can just read the books.
Okay.